Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Redhead Reads. Today I'm talking about a master thief, a charming con man, a roguish master of disguise with a silver tongue and a knack for troublemaking. Today I'm talking about the Lies of Locke Lamora. Okay, so today we're talking about The Lies of Locke Lamora. This is Scott Lynch's debut novel and the first in the Gentleman Bastard series. There are 3 books currently out. I've only read the first and I've already bought the second because this is such a wonderful little book. Great characters, a really intriguing world. So I'm not going to get into the plot too detailed for now because I'm going to talk about spoilers a little later on in the video. Don't worry, there'll be plenty of warning and I'll mark in the description the timestamps if you want to skip ahead and get to the final verdict. The book follows Locke and his gang of thieves as they try to survive and prosper in the ruthless city of Camor. Now, this city is full of corruption. There's very few good people there. It's a very, very dark place where orphans are sold into slavery. Children are forced to work for wicked men who run the streets. There's so much corruption. There's a sort of truce between the authorities and the thieves of the city to help both of them profit off basically everybody else's misery. The name Gentleman Bastards is very apt because actually Locke and his friends, pretty bad people sometimes. In fact, you could argue maybe all the time. Locke's as likely to steal the day as he is to save it, and yet they're so charming and like you just want them to win. Locke and his friends just feel so real. Like they're really flawed characters and they make a lot of bad decisions, and often there are real strong consequences for those decisions. Like it just feels like real life. But what I like about the characters is even though they are flawed and they make mistakes and they do bad things, I think they're very much a product of their environment. They're very much a product of the world that they've been raised in, because Camor is just so ruthless and it's so dark, and it's hard to imagine living a prosperous life without wronging other people. It's an us or them scenario in nearly every aspect of the city, of that people's lives in the city. Some people describe The Lies of Locke Lamora as an epic fantasy or high fantasy. I'm a little on the fence as to whether it qualifies, because it has certainly created this rich, thriving world which you can imagine. But at the same time, it only explores a very, very small part of it. So in like Brandon Sanderson's books like The Stormlight Archive, the world is so fleshed out and it's so big and everything's epic and it's like, oh my god, such high stakes. But the stakes are very personal in The Lies of Locke Lamora. There's no sort of world-ending catastrophe that Locke needs to stop. But you get this much closer to the ground kind of world, and the city of Camor is incredibly well described and atmospheric, and you can just totally imagine what it would be like to live in the city. So I guess from that respect, the world building is sensational. But for the first book at least, it's very focused on the city, because he gets the time to focus on this one location. It really feels like you understand the ways of the world. You understand what people's lives are like at all levels of the society, whether they're in poverty or whether they're nobility or the thieves or the crooks. Like everyone's got agendas. Everyone just wants to live their lives, and it just feels so believable. The plot of Lies of Locke Lamora is I think really unpredictable at times. Like there's so many twists and turns and so many things happen that I just did not expect, and I was like, whoa, like that's crazy. Like obviously the first half of the book or so is a lot slower because it's just building these characters, but when the plot does kick into gear, it's great. And even though I'm not 100% happy with the ending, it was a really, really satisfying story that I cannot wait to continue. Now I do have some issues with it. I think I'll elaborate more on this in the spoilers, but I definitely think the last section of the book for me didn't hold up to what had come before. Maybe this is a personal preference thing, but I thought things were tied together rather quickly, and certain things came to a conclusion which I would have liked to have seen more of. I think the ending felt maybe a little rushed. I wouldn't have minded to have seen maybe an extra 100 pages on this. I don't know if some people would have thought that would have slowed the pacing too much, but I think the last section is such a gallop to the ending that I would have liked to have seen more time spent on certain things. There is magic in this book and in this world, but it's a lot more subtle and it's a lot more in the background. So Locke himself is not magical. He has no magical powers. He's just an ordinary man. And that's why I think he's such a great character, because he has to overcome all these obstacles as an ordinary person. And that's why his failures and his successes have so much more impact, because he doesn't have the help of like magical abilities, you know. I think I've said most of what I can say about the book without going into spoilers. If you have not read this book, I would definitely recommend it. And I would particularly recommend it to people who want to try fantasy but are a little bit intimidated by the massive worlds and history and all these big books that you've got to read, because this book's only I think it's about 530 pages as opposed to like the 1,000-page epics that Brandon Sanderson's writing. So you can get through it a lot easier, and you don't have to remember as much as some other fantasy series. So I think it could be a really good entry-level book. And also, if you're a huge fantasy fan but you just want something a little different, a little fresh, I think The Lies of Locke Lamora is a great place to go. And I'm sure the Gentleman Bastard series is going to be regarded as something, remembered as something brilliant, because I've really enjoyed the first. I've heard great things about the sequel, and I cannot wait to carry on with the story. So now I'm going to start talking about spoilers. So if you've not read the book, leave the video here, because I really don't want to spoil it for you. I'm going to mark in the description the timestamp for my final verdict. So if you want to skip ahead to that, do so. Or if you feel like you've heard enough to decide whether you want to read the book or not, fair enough. But now I am going to be talking about spoilers as your final warning. Here we go. Okay, first I want to talk about Chains, because I think Chains is... he's up there as one of my favourite characters in the book, and definitely one of my favourite mentor figures I've ever read. I just love his like dark sense of humour, but also you feel like he can and will follow through on these threats to just kill Locke and his friends if they don't do the things the way he wants them to. But he's also so inspiring. Like, he sees this greatness in these abandoned orphans who have, you know, well, they've avoided a life of slavery or just like scrounging on the streets, and he sees something in these people, and he's like, I'm going to take those people and turn them into the greatest thieves of all time. And oh man, it's so gripping. And oh my god, Scott Lynch is not scared to kill characters off. Like, I knew this world was pretty dark, so I thought maybe at least one person might die. But in the first book, to kill off the majority of the gang completely took me by surprise, and it really worked as like a shocking moment, and it definitely cemented that hatred between Locke and the Grey King, and I'm gonna talk about the Grey King a little bit more in a second. The antagonists are all fascinating, from the Don and his wife, to the Spider, to the Falconer, all the way up to the Grey King, who, see, I think this is maybe my biggest complaint with the book, because I loved the Grey King. Like, at the start, he was just like this character that was kind of like in the background doing horrible things, and you knew he was going to be important, but I wasn't sure if that was going to be in this book or if that was going to be in the sequels. But then the Grey King does all these horrible things to Locke, kills nearly all of his friends, like, just completely destroys Locke's life. And I was so ready for an epic confrontation between the two. And I did really enjoy Locke's manipulation of various factions and people to undo the Grey King's schemes. But then that was kind of it. Like, I was really expecting the Grey King to have like a backup plan to trump Locke's backup plan, if you know what I mean, because he seemed like this character that had planned this thing for like 20 years, 25 years, I think he said. And I get the point is that he underestimated Locke, but for I think for it to end in like a fist fight or a knife fight or whatever it was, I thought that went against everything that the book set up. The whole point of this book has been that Locke wins when he's smart, not when he's reckless. And I think Locke just rushing in, knowing he's inferior at fighting to the Great King, but going in and then winning anyway. I get, yeah, he used trickery. He said, oh, Jean's, look behind you, Jean's there. I thought that was a really cheap way to kill off an incredible character. I think they set up this really great confrontation with these really personal stakes, and then it just ended. It just ended, and the whole thing was over. But yeah, that's my biggest problem with the book, particularly because I liked the Great King so much, and I liked the hatred that Locke had for the Great King, even though everything the Great King did was just business. It wasn't really personal against Locke, but Locke had such this hatred for the Great King. I did enjoy what happened with the falconer, with the mage. I can't remember what he's called. And I like the setup for what could happen in the future with his guild. I think that's really, really interesting to me. And oh man, I really cannot wait to get into this book. I'm reading The Witcher at the moment, and I've got a couple of other things, but I will get to this year 100% because I just really want to read it. Okay, so that's enough for spoilers. If you've skipped here from the spoiler-free section, you're good, you're safe. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm just going to do a quick summary. The Lies of Locke Lamora, for me, was a pretty effortless read with great characters, a gripping plot, and really, really promising things for the future. However, the decision they make with one of Locke's antagonists, which I've mentioned in the spoiler section, and I think the pacing in the last section as they kind of race to the finish really didn't work for me so well, and that's what stops me from giving this book a 5-star review. I really, really wanted to give it 5 out of 5 all the way through. I was thinking this is a 5 out of 5, and I got to the last 100 pages and I went, not quite. So my review for Scott Lynch's The Lies of Locke Lamora is 4 stars, or 4 out of 5. Probably have some sort of image come up on the screen here, if you can see it. Maybe not, maybe I'm just waving my hands around and this is going to look really stupid. But it's a wonderful book. I absolutely recommend you pick it up, whether you're into fantasy or not. And it's a great first book to start if you're looking at exploring fantasy, but you're a little worried about the high concepts and huge worlds and the dozens and dozens of characters, because it's mostly focused on a small group of people. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I've wanted to do this BookTube channel for so long. The logistics of it were so intimidating, but I really hope you've enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to be doing more reviews soon. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.